Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining me once again for one of these Magic the Gathering openings. And, you know, we are a bit past the spooky season there. However, I have gotten everything I need to be able to open up something special for that time. And that's a little bit of a secret lair. So I have finally gotten everything that I need there for the spooky verse, spooky drop, whatever you want to call it there. I can't remember what the specific drop was called, but you know, it was the Halloween 2025 version of the secret lair drops there. And just wanting to start off with the kind of card that is the extra insert here. We've seen this artist before. They had their own secret lair, as well as they did a little piece of lands for bonus cards that I did end up getting a island and a mountain for, but I didn't get the other three, so I'll probably be looking to grab those at some point, especially since I see that their price has gone down, so it's a little bit easier to collect from them. And as of the time of the recording, I have also recorded another secret lair that they have done a card in that one there as well. But in this one, they did a bonus card. If you spend a certain amount there, then you would be able to get a promo card, and it'll be this one here, the Cryptic Command, which is going to be 1 and triple blue for an instant that allows you to choose 2. 1, counter target spell, or return target permanent to its owner's hand, or tap all creatures your opponents control, or draw a card. And I know that it's a bit more of a older card. I don't think it sees quite as much play anymore, just because it is 4 for you to be able to get 2, but there are quite a few free or cheap counter spells that are around, which is kind of, I think, generally how this has been proffered, as that it will counter something and then you get another thing on top of that, whether it's returning something to its owner's hand, tapping the creatures, or drawing the card. Whatever is good. Let's see here. Predict the future, survey the past, then choose wisely thy spell to cast. So a bit of a kind of a almost like a proverb type of thing there, a little poem for some sort of spell. But that is going to be the little extra promo card that comes along with it. But we are going to get into the majority of the stuff there. The ending might be a little difficult. We'll see how I'll be able to get it done, but we will figure out a way. So first off, we're going to go into this Dreaming Darkly. Now, I will say I really enjoyed the artwork of this one, and it also had some cards that I was on the lookout for, so it is going to be good to get them. Unfortunately, it looks like this one, as well as this, are in plastic and not in paper, so unfortunately we'll not be able to recycle quite as well, but we'll be able to still get them open easily enough. Probably won't take out the Cryptic Command because it's going to be the only thing that's in there. There we go. Alrighty. So we are going to start off with a card that I have been looking for, and I know that there was a secret lair previously that had these that I did not get, so I know, and it's a decently expensive card in that particular secret lair now, so I'm like, gotta get it eventually. But we're gonna start off with a little Glen Elendra Archmage, 3 and a blue for a 2/2 fairy wizard with flying that has blue, sack this creature, counter target non-creature spell, and has persist. Persist being that if this creature would die and there's no -1/-1 counters on it, you bring it back from the grave with a -1/-1 counter on it. Now, an interesting thing about it is if you have something that allows a creature to get a +1/+1 counter on it when it enters the battlefield, or you're able to give it that somehow. It actually counteracts that -1/-1 counter, so you can bring a persist creature back with, you know, essentially without a counter on it, without a -1/-1 counter on it, so you can keep on using this effect to keep on countering the non-creature spells there as long as you got the blue mana. Honestly, pretty good card. Like I said, I really like the artworks. As you probably saw with the Spider-Man ones, I really liked the black and white ink Venom cards, as well as the Venom symbiote lands. There's just the contrast of the black and white and just kind of the grays in between just kind of makes something really interesting looking. It looks cool, and I really like that. So I'm glad to have, you know, more stuff like that, because I really like the contrast of things. But starting off with Glenalendra Archmage, and we're going to be going right into something that I thought would be great with it. Guardian Project, another really good card here. So, you know, really glad to keep on going. Now it's just like a bunch of like weird fantasy looking creatures, maybe alien, but Guardian Project, very good card. 3 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control enters, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard, you draw a card. So while it does not grant a +1/+1 token, because Glenalendra Archmage is brought back with Persist, if you have this on the field as well, along with the +1/+1, every time that you counter something and it comes back, you also get to draw a card out of it too. So all in all, like, pretty decent there. Next up, we are going to get a little bit of Rune of the Hidden Realm. One of the commanders there of, let's see here. I think it was Commander 2013, because 2011 was the first Commander product that they had, and then I think 2012, they had Commander's Arsenal, but 2013, they finished up the 3-color cycle there, giving us all of the remaining 3-colored cards there, and Rune was or at least was one of the green, white, and blue Bant commanders there. So, you know, seeing him come on back in another product is really cool and interesting to see. He is a 2, a green, a white, and a blue for a 4/4 legendary Rhino Soldier with Vigilance and Trample. And you can pay 2 mana and tap a Rune to exile another target creature. You return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, in that sort of sense there, you can remove something on your opponent's side of the field that might be troublesome, or you can remove something on your field and have it come back with an ETB trigger. Because Rune has Vigilance, you can attack in with it. It's got that Trample, so it's got a little bit of incentive to do it, and then after your combat, you can do the tappy-tap trick, have the creature be exiled, and then come back. If it was a creature that you also attacked with and is tapped, when it comes back untapped. So there's a little bit of synergy of either having like a big creature that doesn't have Vigilance that you can attack in with, or a creature that has an ETB trigger. But I think it's kind of interesting that he has this kind of flashlight that is helping to reveal whatever this hidden realm is and scaring away all of these swordfish-looking creatures there. Up next, we've got one of my favorite cards. Original card art was done by Seb McKinnon. This one is not, but it's still one of my favorite cards here. A little bit of Soul Herder. And I was just recognized with Rune, if you use that with the Glenalendra Archmage after it has returned back with the -1/-1 counter, then if you exile it and you bring it back, it comes back without the counter on it, so you can counter again, though, you know, it costs 2 mana to do it there. So there is a little bit of synergy here. But Soul Herder, 1, a white, and a blue, 1/1, creature's spirit. Whenever a creature is exiled from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile another target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So another good thing with Glenalundra there. And, you know, all of these work well with the Guardian project of coming back and being able to draw a card. But Soul Hoarder, you know, whenever you exile something with Rune, or whenever you exile something with itself, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And if it's that Glenalundra Archmage, you know, it just comes back and you're able to exile another thing. So all in all, I think it's really cool. I really like it with my ETB strategies of, you know, a card that does it, but then also gets really big for just kind of blinking your own creatures. And for our first bonus card, we're going to get a Plains. Oh, okay. So the person that did the cryptic command here, these were the bonus cards that I was talking about with the island and the mountains there. So now that I've got a Plains there, I'm just looking for the swamp and the forest to be able to complete out the set. That would be pretty good to get the remainder ones of those. So this one probably has another one as well. A mountain. Okay, so unfortunately, we've got a ton of the mountain ones there. So I'm hoping that maybe in some of the other sets that don't necessarily have a solidified card at the end of it, like a special bonus card that is specifically tied to that one there, that we can maybe get a swamp and a what do you call it there? A forest to be able to complete out the set. So we are getting a couple of those. Organize these back up. Put them in our corner. Okay, so got Cryptic Command, a couple of our bonus sheet cards. One of them is new, which is fantastic. Up next, going along with that Halloween theme, we've got this Trick or Treat there, having a couple of creatures, I believe, that just have little kids dressed up as. And thank you for being part of Secret Lair. Oh, a bunch of like cassette tapes and whatnot. Okay. And a CD. Oh, they like their music. Okay, more plastic. Okay, so we're going to be starting off here with a little bit of Ixalan action, with a little bit of Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. It's going to be a nice little legendary Vampire Cleric here. 2 and a black for a 1/3 legendary Vampire Cleric with whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So I'm trying to remember which one that is, Sanguine Bond or Exquisite Blood. You know, I get the two mixed up all the time, but it's one of those two there. And for 3 and double black, you can give all of your creatures you control lifelink until the end of turn. So you can gain a bunch of life and have your opponent lose that much. You know, a little combat trick there, or just get the infinite combo set up where whenever they lose life, you gain that much, and, you know, you just kill them off rip with that there. You got a little kid proffing his hands up in the air, kind of like Vito does in his artwork there. Getting a little bit of the vampire fangs in there. And up next, we've got a little bit of Satoru Umezawa. 1, a blue and a black for a 2/4 legendary human ninja with whenever you activate a ninjutsu ability, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This only triggers once each turn, and each creature card in your hand is ninjutsu to a blue and a black. So if you really wanted to, you could put this in a blue and a black deck there, but, you know, not have any other cards with ninjutsu. Just as long as Satoru is out there, you can activate that if you want. looks like you've got some other kids that are either helping out to show off his costume there, but I mean, this guy right here looks a bit closer to almost like Karn a little bit, but I can't really tell. But they are definitely having some other form in the background there. But, nice little thing to be able to get out some ninjutsu things or big things for super cheap. Up next here, we're going to get a little bit of Voya, Jaws of the Conclave. Now, this was I think a buy a box promo or something for one of the, not the latest Ravnica set, which I know is the Murders at Karlov Manor, but the ones that were prior to War of the Spark, I think. I mean, it very well could be. No, I think it actually might be. I can't remember which one it came out, but it's a Ravnica creature there, but it was a buy a box promo, and I never got it there, so I kind of really enjoy that. I'm actually getting a version of it, so I would be able to get this one in one of these sets there, so I can actually use it if I want to. But Voya is going to be a 2, a red, a green, and a white for a 5/5 legendary wolf with Vigilance, Trample, Ward 3. So a little bit of protection on itself, and hits kind of hard with that Trample and Vigilance. And whenever it attacks, you put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of elves you control. And then you draw a card for each wolf you control. So if you've got a bunch of elves, you put a ton of +1/+1 counters on stuff. If you've got a bunch of wolves, you draw a bunch of cards. Because this is a wolf itself, you always will draw a card there. So if you want to make things bigger, you got to put +1. You got to get some elves in there. But yeah, it can be a big guy and go a bit out of control if you've got a little bit of a combination of elves and wolves in there. But really great to get it. It looks like we've got maybe a ranger and another elf over here, as well as Voya in the middle. And this guy's got a green bucket there. Elves are usually green, and he's got a red bucket there, and he probably has a white one that we can't see at the moment there. And also their shoes. He's got red shoes, Voya's got white shoes, and the elf has green shoes there. So there's a lot of color combinations there. However, I will say, while this is has a bunch of different kids in the outfits, this is probably one of the most disjoint secret lairs, because we've got all 5 colors, but they don't really go together. Like Satoru Umezawa, like you can bring out Voya, but it's just like Satoru Umezawa is blue and black, Vito is black, so it's like those two can go together. But this one, it's like if you had it in your deck, you'd have to find another way to like be able to put it in there, because all of its colors are different. Because here's another blue-black one. We're going to get a little bit of Wilthelp the Rock Cleaver, which was a commander for one of the recent Innistrad stuff, the ones with the witches and the werewolves there. But he was Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt. Those were the ones. He was a commander in one of the commander decks there. So, this is another opportunity to get them there. And they were also a bonus card in one of the secret lairs that I did end up pulling. So, I know that one was a pretty expensive bonus card there, so getting it was very nice. Don't have to necessarily purchase it separately to add it to the collection, but we're going to have 2, a blue and a black, for a 3/3 legendary zombie warrior with whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. At the beginning of your end step, you may sack a zombie, and if you do, you draw a card. So, you're going to be putting this in a zombie deck there. It's already a zombie warrior. You can either have your zombies die either from sacking effects or from Wilthelt's own effect there to get rid of them. If they didn't have Decayed, then you get to create another one there, which you can sacrifice on another turn. I'm trying to remember, I think Decayed might mean that it can't block or something, or that maybe it gets sacrificed at the end of turn or something like that. And if that's the case, I mean, if you don't end up using it, you can sacrifice it to draw a card, which is kind of nice in and of itself there, you know. Get the blue and black zombies a chance to draw extra cards there. And our last card of this particular one is going to be a Liberator Urza's Battlethopter. You know, you get a little, it looks like you've got a parent that is pulling along two kids in the vehicle there. But it's not a vehicle, actually. It's just a living artifact creature. Liberator Urza's Battlethopter is 3 mana for a 1/2 legendary artifact thopter with flash and flying, and you may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. Whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is greater than Liberator's power, you put a +1/+1 on Liberator. So you can put this in a colorless deck, so like Eldrazi or something like that. You can cast Eldrazi. Like, even if the Eldrazi have colors in them, most of them have devoid, meaning that they are colorless spells. So you'd be able to cast them as flash, or you can cast any artifact, even if that artifact has colors in it, you can cast it with flash. And, you know, this just gets bigger if you keep on if you keep on casting artifacts that have a greater mana value than its power. So, you know, you can get up there in power. You know, depending on where you go, it might be difficult to get above 4 or 5 power. There are definitely artifacts that do it, but whether or not you're actually putting those in the deck and playing them, that's to be seen, and, you know, you'd have to actually draw them there. All right, going on to our bonus cards. Our first one is going to be nothing. Oh, wow. Because we got a mountain in this one, but we got gypped on that one there. I might have to contact them about that, because that one didn't have a bonus card in it. We got another mountain, so I mean, didn't exactly get the thing that we wanted. But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't throw it away, so it's just like, that's very strange. Well, I mean, video proof of me opening it on here and it not being in there. I mean, I just went through everything and it wasn't there, unless it dropped on the floor somewhere. Give me a second. I'm gonna just take a look around, see if I can see it. Okay, so I've looked around and there is nothing. So, I mean, it's not like it's stuck to the back of any of these cards either. So, yeah, I guess I'm glad that I opened this up on camera, because now I can go out and say, hey, you know, I didn't get one of the bonus cards that was intended for it. So, you know, hoping to get one back. So that's a weird pack that is going to have almost like a question mark value at the end of it, because I don't know what the bonus card is, even though it should have come with one. So I don't know what to tell you. But we're going to keep on moving on to the next one here, which is going to probably be the most exciting one for this particular set, which is going to be the Kieran Yanner Artist Series. And particularly because of this card that it is showing up on the front. Because, well, not only are they a very, very, they are an amazing artist in and of themselves, but they also had an amazing card included within that a lot of people were looking for, and it's the reason why this set sold out first among all of the ones that were there. All of the ones that were available during the Halloween secret lair. Okay, so starting off, we're going to get a little bit of Armageddon, a very, very salty card. Armageddon, 3 and a white for a sorcery, destroy all lands. Yeah, you heard that right. You play out all of the stuff that you want, and then you destroy all the land so no one else can play anything. Particularly if you're got a bunch of artifacts that can produce mana, you can keep on going. Another thing that you can do there is with the addition of earthbending with all of the Avatar, The Last Airbender cards that are coming out. In that one there, you know, when the lands get destroyed, they come back afterwards. So, you know, you get to keep them there. But in this one here, we have the Planeswalker Sarah inside of her Sarah realm, going about probably destroying a whole bunch of stuff there because she was uber powerful in the lore. And it's a very, very gorgeous artwork in this, but all of these are going to be gorgeous artworks. Up next, we're going to get a little bit of Northern Paladin. 2 and a double white for a 3/3 human knight with 2 white, tap to destroy target black permanent. So big black hate there. Not going to say that they might be a little prejudiced, but I mean, it kind of is in the card in and of itself there. So very nice knight in armor there, with a little bit of that Sarah stained glass pattern on the breastplate there. Sword all aglow to be able to fighting off the darkest hour, as it says. But, you know, I don't think that I necessarily need to say that it's gorgeous artwork there because all of them are going to be. You know, it probably doesn't have too much place there because it destroys one type of permanent there, and that's about it. And here we go for our big expensive card. Demonic Tutor, something that people were looking to get a bunch of if they were able to. Card that always maintains some value there. 1 and a black for a sorcery with search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. Now, the big thing is, this does not put it on the top of your library like some of the other ones. It does not cost life for you to be able to do it there. It is a sorcery, but a lot of these tutor effects are sorceries. But, I mean, to be able to pick the best card in your deck or the card that completes out your combo there, it's very, very good there. And you have some sort of demon tempting a human or angel or a heavenly being there, teaching them how to use probably the powers of darkness or something. But all in all, amazing artwork there, super detailed, and on a crazy good card as well. So I will absolutely take those. And the last thing that we are going to get is probably a representation almost of that demon, a Lord of the Pit. Now, this has not come out a whole lot. It's not that great of a card either, so, you know, but it's an inclusion, and of course, amazing artwork, because Kieran Yenner always does that. But Lord of the Pit, 4 and triple black for a 7/7 demon, so 7 mana for a 7/7. Flying and trample, at the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice a creature other than this one, and if you can't, this deals 7 damage to you. So you want to have a bit of a board out there, or this is coming to hurt you as well. You want to keep on sacrificing little creatures to be able to do it. That's kind of why it isn't the most expensive, because it's just almost like a big beater. It's just a 7/7 for 7 mana, that flying and trample, and doesn't really have any other ability. It just has a downside if you don't have another creature. And even if you do, you got to sacrifice a creature. Albeit, you know, if you are in an aristocrat's deck and you want to sacrifice certain creatures, that's good. But if you're looking to sacrifice with a specific creature or card, it won't activate that sort of thing. If you got something like I can't remember what it's called, like Malakir Bloodchief or something like that. It's whenever a creature you control dies, then each opponent sacrifices a creature as well. You know, it's good for that because then it's making it more of a symmetrical effect there. But, you know, it's a decent, it's a card just with great artwork. And so I can actually see that there are 2 cards here, so we didn't get gypped on this one. We're looking for, if it is one of these, Swamp and Forest. Oh no, it's going to be just another version of Lord of the Pit there, just in this more sketched out artwork there. I usually like these, but it looks like it's penciling or whatnot, and it's very, very faint to see the card there. Like it's almost just a gray background. I wonder if it's a bit better with this. And it's not that much better there. The foiling makes it a little bit harder to see with how close in coloring everything is. This is a little bit easier, at least for me to see in person. And I'm just realizing now I didn't have my light on this entire time. Not sure if that really helps all that much more, but yeah, I think I prefer the colored in versions of this just because you get a lot more detail. Like you can see a lot more detail in that than in the sketched out version. But all in all, you know, Demonic Tutor is by far an amazing card. So getting 2 of those there is pretty cool. Now that we've gone through some of the standard Magic cards there, we're going to be going on to some of the crossovers. Starting off, we're getting a little bit of horror-themed action with the Charity of Amity Island. Jaws themselves. Now, I'm trying to remember if Jaws is technically female, because I think that there's like a child of Jaws or something. You open the beaches on the 4th of July, it's like ringing the dinner bell. And sending out a little bit of a fishing line there to try to catch them. I was just watching a noir film. I believe it was called To Have or To Have Not. And, you know, they also had those big fishing rigs. They are trying to catch a swordfish, a marlin, out in the ocean towards the beginning of the film there before it actually kind of picked up. And it reminded me a lot of Jaws because, I mean, I saw this Jaws before I saw that noir film. But, yeah, it just really reminded me of that, and it just kind of felt nifty to be like, oh, yeah, you know, I've seen that before. Alrighty. So, going to be looking here at a new card, like, never been printed before. It's made for this crossover. Jaws, Relentless Predator. 3 and double red for a legendary creature shark. 5/5 with trample and haste. Whenever Jaws deals combat damage to a player, you create that many blood tokens. And whenever a non-creature artifact is sacrificed or destroyed, Jaws deals 1 damage to each opponent. So, Jaws has trample and is trying to hit people, and you create blood tokens, which are non-creature artifacts. And if those get sacrificed or destroyed in any way, you know, you can sacrifice them yourself, or they can be destroyed in other ways. You can sacrifice them to other effects other than the, you know, pay 2 mana to activate their stuff. Jaws will then deal 1 damage to each opponent. Now, it's not combat damage, so you don't create more blood tokens off of that there, because if that was the case and it was just whenever Jaws deals damage in general, you could just find a way to sacrifice the blood tokens without spending any mana there, you know, just an infinite sack outlet to just essentially kill everybody on the spot. But it's an interesting one there, you know, very aggressive of going through, hitting people, probably trying to get a bunch of non-creature artifacts out there that you can sacrifice in some way so that you can just be draining people very, very quickly with Jaws. So, nice little addition there, being able to take a, you know, a new peek at maybe a new commander. And we're also going to have Panic on Amity Island, which is going to be Descent into Avernus, where Jaws was attacking the shoreline. And you got a guy with a nice dad bod there. 2 and a red for an enchantment with, at the beginning of your upkeep, you put 2 descent counters on this enchantment. Then each player creates X treasure tokens, and this enchantment deals X damage to each player. where X is the number of descent counters on this enchantment. Now, the big thing about that you can see is this is creating treasure tokens. So not only is it dealing damage because of the card itself there, and based off of the descent counters, you're also getting a bunch of treasure tokens as well. And you can sacrifice those treasures to be able to cast something. And whenever you spend those treasure tokens, Jaws is going to hit everybody as well. So they're going to be ticking down a lot faster than you are because, on the first turn there, it deals 2 damage, you get 2 treasures. Well, if you sack those treasures, then everybody, each of your opponents is going to be taking 2 extra damage. So they're going to be taking 4 in total off of that. Next time, it's 4 treasures, 4 damage, but when you sack those treasures, you're dealing 8. So by the second time that this activates there, you're probably have dealt 12 damage to them in total. So, it seems like you can tick them down pretty quickly if you want to. Up next there, we're going to get a little bit of a reckless endeavor there, where the shark was trying to swallow up the fisherman there. Very expensive here. 5 and double red for a sorcery. Roll 2 d12s and choose one result. Reckless Endeavor deals damage equal to that result to each creature. Then create a number of treasure tokens equal to the other result. So again, another one here where you can get a whole bunch of treasures if you want to be able to get stuff. If you've got Jaws out there and one of your rolls is beneath 5, then you can do that to not kill Jaws. You get a bunch of treasure tokens, and then you can sacrifice the treasure tokens in order to deal damage to each opponent as well. I mean, hey, it's pretty good. They've really thought of, the cards to put in this here by creating a bunch of treasures if you want to and other things. Got a little bit of a sneak attack here. It's in that, Baby Shark song there at the very end, I think, at least the version that I learned in camp when I was young. Sneak attack, 3 and a red for an enchantment. With 1 red, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. You sack it at the beginning of the next end step. And flavor text, perfect. Da-dum. Da-dum. Getting prepared for that sneak attack right there at the beginning of the movie where Jaws has his first victim of the woman by the campfire that goes out swimming and the guy is too drunk to follow and just kind of passes out on the beach. Very, very interesting card there, being able to just cheat out really, really cheap, really big creatures for cheap, which is a very nice effect to be able to have. And we're going to have one of the phrases that is misquoted all the time. Originally, a lot of people say, we're going to need a bigger boat, but really the sheriff turned sheriff. No, it's the guy from Woods Hole there, the marine biologist. He turns to the captain and says, you're going to need a bigger boat. And so we've got a good old Abrade here, 1 in a red for an instant. Choose 1, deals 3 damage to target creature, or it destroys target artifact. I kind of think that it's fitting that it doesn't have a, any flavor text on the bottom, because the flavor text is kind of the stuff at the beginning now. The only thing that I see is that it deals 3 damage there, and if you're trying to kill Jaws, then, it should be dealing more than 3. It should deal 5 to kill Jaws. Destroying the target artifact to, destroy the gas canister in its mouth to blow up the shark there kind of makes sense. Braid is pretty good there. I know that the untimely malfunction is kind of like the new version of a braid that people are really, really liking. Very good in standard and just very good card in general there. But, nice card there. And it looks like we are going to get that blood token there for the stuff that Jaws makes, because the only thing is it's probably not going to have any treasure. Yeah, so that's the only thing. Is like, I know that the back card is a bonus card. It's not a treasure, but there are cards in here, specifically the Descent into Avernus, that creates treasure. So unfortunately, it should have been Descent into Avernus and Reckless Endeavor both do it. So it should have come with a treasure token as well, but it didn't. So I think that's a little bit of a fail in terms of this, but we've got the blood token, the chum that is created from Jaws itself there. It's a token artifact blood. You pay 1 to tap it to discard a card, sack this artifact to then draw a card there. But again, you know, being able to cycle through your deck and then also dealing damage each time you do it is pretty good. And our bonus sheet card there is going to be here, this Cathartic Reunion. It's the same in both ones here. 1 in a red for sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you discard 2 cards and you draw 3 cards. And you have the Marine Biologist and the Sheriff out stranded in the ocean on the barrels after they've taken care of Jaws there, and because they didn't know if either of them survived there. So, you know, kind of makes sense there with the Cathartic Reunion. It's kind of like a all's well that ends well until, you know, the next movie happens and, you know, there's another Jaws or Jaws comes back. I don't know what it is, but I never saw it. I've just only seen the original Jaws. But yeah, nice little set there. A lot of it going well together as it should be, unlike this one here. All right, up next, we're going to have a little bit of The Office. Dwight's Destiny. I have not personally seen The Office yet, so I only know some of the kind of stuff that, like the memes. I am not a hero, I'm a defender of The Office. I just know a couple of the memes that have come out, like parkour, and That's What She Said. There was the one that they had about Kim Kardashian. Like, I know that there's a bunch of jokes that they make in it there, but I'm not privy to the jokes there. So I don't know much about The Office. You know, there's Dwight, and I know that there's Michael Scott, but it's not something that I have experienced as of yet, so a lot of these I probably will not understand. You are forewarned. You have Dwight Schrute Hayking. Okay, it looks like almost like a straw man there. Is 2 and a white for a 5/5 version of Heliod Sun-Crowned legendary enchantment god, which I'm trying to remember if this was the version of the Valentine's Day one that had come out, or if it was the original Heliod there. But indestructible, as long as your devotion to white is less than 5, Dwight Schrute isn't a creature. Whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. Pay 1 and a white, another target creature gains lifelink until end of turn. So whenever you gain life, you can put a +1/+1 on this itself, or onto something else, because you can put them on enchantments there. You can put it onto this when it's not a creature there. But, you know, it's an interesting one there. Up next, we are going to get Dwight's Weapon Stash, a Steel Shaper's Gift. 1 in white for a sorcery. With search your library for an equipment card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. And it looks like he is just pulling out a shuriken from the middle of a book, kind of like how you would see a bunch of those other things happening or hidden in there, kind of like in the Shawshank Redemption there, where he hid the the stone pick inside of the book there. So being able to pick out an equipment there could possibly get some good stuff off there. Swords to Plowshares, a nice removal spell there. 1 white for an instant, exile target creature. Its controller gains life equal to its power. Between this and Path to Exile, Swords is the better one because life can easily be taken care of, or, in a game of Commander there, you can win through commander damage. If you're ramping them with Path to Exile, you could get them to play cards that they don't already. Both of them are good in order to get rid of a problematic creature. It's just this one is the better option. So Swords to Plowshare is always a good one there. He's got some sort of giant beat there, some sort of farming. And we've got a blue card now. So, I would hope that we have something like a white-blue card later on so that you could play everything in there. You've got Dwight Assistant to the King, or Dwight Assistant King in this sense, which is a Baral Chief of Compliance, 1 in a blue, 1/3 legendary human wizard with instant and sorcery spells. You cast, cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. I don't know enough about the office who the king could possibly be. I would assume that it's like the manager, the director, or supervisor there, and he's trying to get close to them or something. You'd have to let me know. Oh, I just realized this one is done by Kieran Yanner. No wonder that the artwork is so good. Who knew that he would be showing up in this one as well? I don't think any of the other ones were. No. Oh, but we got the one that did our thing here. Magali Villanueva is the one that did this playmat there. So that's actually pretty interesting that they got a few different people to do these. Up next, we're also going to get a green card, which is going to be actually a green-black card in and of itself there. Recyclos, eco-friendly, a Garruk Relentless, a 3 and a green for a 3-mana legendary planeswalker Garruk with whenever Recyclos has 2 or fewer loyalty counters on him, you transform him. And for 0 loyalty, Recyclos deals 3 damage to target creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power to him. Or you can pay 0 loyalty as well to create a 2/2 green wolf creature token there. So you can either get him to flip over with that one there or with the other one. And this is going to be our backside of the card here. Recyclos, Nature's Vengeance. Garruk, the Veil Cursed, I believe it is. Legendary Planeswalker, Black-Red Garruk. +1 loyalty, you create a 1/1 black wolf creature token with Death Touch. For -1 loyalty, you sacrifice a creature. If you do, search a library for a creature card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle. And for -3, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So, good thing about it is on the front side, if you get that wolf initially, when it gets flipped to the back, you can -1 sacrifice that wolf, and you can get the best creature from your deck that you need there with that -1. Can be pretty good if you want to. Another thing that you can have there is if you make the wolf, then you know that you have a creature that has 2 power that this Garruk Relentless or Recyclos has to be able to hit so that you'd be able to flip them without making sure that they die. There's a few different ways that you can end up using it to try to get it to flip and whatnot there. But, interesting to get a Garruk Relentless. I'm not sure that we've really had it that many times come up. So, being able to get one there is a little bit fun, even though it's not the greatest of planeswalkers there. But, still a little fun card there. I assume that Dwight has like a bunch of different personas that he has, or a lot of delusions, because it's like the Hay King. We've got him looking at trying to be maybe a ninja. We've got this sort of fantasy of being like a super buff farmer. We've got this one of like a evil, or like what would you call that there? Like what Jafar was, a vizier, like the evil vizier type of deal, whispering in the king's ears or the sultan's ears to get him to change, and this recyclos as well there. They just seem like a lot of different personalities. And okay, so we do have a multicolored card, Dwight O. Lantern there. A copy of the Reaper King, which was in the very first, or not the very first, but one of the first secret layers, Chromatic Killers, which is going to be a hybrid white or 2, a hybrid blue or 2, a hybrid black or 2, and a hybrid red or 2, and a hybrid green or 2 for a 6/6 legendary artifact creature Scarecrow with other Scarecrow creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever another Scarecrow you control ETBs, you destroy target permanent. Now, there aren't that many Scarecrows, and most of the Scarecrows aren't that good, so it's a bit of a weird card that, maybe they would want more of. Now I'm thinking to myself, man, if they made like a Wizard of Oz or Wicked set, you've got the Scarecrow as a card, that could go into this deck there. Maybe it would be good and you'd be able to activate the effects of it there. But, just a weird little card there that has, synergy with these Scarecrows, but in and of itself, there aren't enough good Scarecrows to make it work or worthwhile. I have heard that there are a bunch of different cards that you can get for the bonus card, so we'll just have to see what we get for these. And we're getting a Seize the Spotlight. Okay, well, I know that this had gone up in price recently, so, I mean, if this ends up being the most expensive one, that would be good, because then, hey, I don't have to purchase it separately there, because I think that there were 4 different ones that you could get. It'd be nice if this was a different one, or if it was a Seize the Spotlight, then I could sell it to try to get the other ones there. But Seize the Spotlight, 2 and a red for a sorcery. Each opponent chooses Fame or Fortune. For each player that chose Fame, you gain control of a creature that player controls until the end of turn. And untap those creatures and they gain haste until end of turn. For each player who chose Fortune, you draw a card and you create a treasure. Yeah, I could see how that can be a bit of a pickle there. Choosing Fame, you can take their best creature. Because it doesn't say target, you can take a creature with hexproof or ward, or shroud. Shroud doesn't really pop up that much there, but you'd be able to take it because it's for each player who chose, you gain control of a creature. It doesn't say you gain control of target creature. So you get to just take a creature there, and if you can attack in with them, it gains haste. You can sacrifice them if you want to. You can do disadvantageous stuff with them. You get to choose what you want to do with it. Or, they let you draw a card and create a treasure. That's also pretty good. Because you can choose Fame for yourself, and you just essentially untap a creature that you control and it gains haste there. Like, you can untap something that's already been tapped, or if it doesn't have haste, you can give it haste with that there. But most of the time, you're probably going to be drawing a card and creating a treasure from this here. In total, if everybody chose Fortune, you draw 4 cards off of that, and then you get essentially a mana back with the treasure. Pretty good. And from the Dwight O'Lantern, we're going to get a Council's Judgment. Card there from Conspiracy there. A bunch of candles on a cake here, 1 in double white for a sorcery. Well, the Council, starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control, and exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. So, it's a little bit difficult to get more than, like, 1 or 2 is probably what you're going to get the most of there, because if you choose something that someone has, then the other people might dogpile in on it and you only remove one thing. But if you choose something to remove from the next player, that player is probably going to choose a different player. And, you know, it can be set up where, you know, you can get rid of 2 things or potentially get 3 things. It'd be difficult to get 4 things entirely there. You can, because someone is going to get hit twice there. But, you know, 2 different ones, that's pretty good there. Makes it a little bit easier to complete out the set if I've got to purchase them individually. And like I said, I know the Spotlight had like a recent price spike in its regular version, so potentially, you know, having the more expensive one would be nice. Okay, going on through, next thing that we're going to have is, might be a little scary, but it's a little bit metal, or iron in this case. A little bit of Iron Maiden, the album arts. So, going to be getting in this, getting to experience the albums. Metal albums aren't released, they're unleashed. Or unleashed. Unleashed, wow. So, get a couple of Iron Maiden stuff in on this one here. You know, it's going to have a lot of the different cover arts to their albums. So I'll be taking a peek at some of those. Now, I don't know Iron Maiden's music super well there, so I would not be able to tell you what these different albums were. Oh, it tells us. It's Killers 1981. Okay. So starting off, we've got a little bit of Lethal Scheme, 2 and double black, an instant with Convoke that lets you destroy target creature or planeswalker. Each creature that convoked this spell connives. So I'm trying to remember if it helps pay for 1 or if it helps pay for 1 or the color. That's the only thing that I can't remember with Convoke. But at the very least, you can convoke with 2 creatures, which will allow both of those to connive, which I believe lets you essentially scry, and you can either choose to put it in the graveyard or keep it on top or something like that. I don't quite remember what connive does, but you are able to put like a, I think if you put it in the graveyard, you put a +1/+1 counter on the creature, and then maybe you draw a card, and then if you keep it on top, you just draw a card or something like that. But yeah, you know, destroying any creature or planeswalker for 2 just for tapping down a couple of your stuff is pretty good. We got Killers from 1981, and this is going to be The Number of the Beast, a single from 1982. This is that 666 stuff. Having a little bit of Grave Titan, 4 and double black for a 6/6 giant with Death Touch. And whenever this creature ETBs or attacks, you create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Good old classic Titan card. The Titans were really popular. Primeval Titan, you know, the most so because it's always prime time. But, you know, being able to put some bodies out on the field for already having a big guy there is always nifty there. So it looks like we've got this, you know, Iron Maiden fellow having like the head of some demon there because it's dripping down into the text box. We're also going to get probably the best spell from this secret lair, Animate Dead, which is Live After Death from 1985. 1 and a black for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature card in a graveyard. When this aura enters, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in a graveyard and gains enchant creature put onto the battlefield with this aura. Return enchanted creature card to the battlefield under your control and attach this aura to it. When this aura leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it. Enchanted creature gets -1/-0. So makes it a little bit smaller, but you essentially can cheat something back for 2 mana, which is pretty darn good there. Give it a nice effect there, and it's going to be able to really pop off. So yeah, you know, very, very good animation spell. It's in the name of the card itself. Up next there, we're going to have Temporal Trespass, which is a version of Nowhere in Time from 1986. Kind of very fitting that all of these deal with something of the nature of the card there. That's very nice. 8 and 3 blue for a sorcery with Delve, and has the effect of take an extra turn after this one and you exile Temporal Trespass. So you can bring this down so that it's super, super cheap for you to be able to essentially take an extra turn for like 3 mana. All in all, pretty darn good. We also have Unearth. So another animation spell, though a bit more limited. Unearth is going to be No Prayer for the Dying from 1990. For 1 black mana, you get a sorcery with return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, you know, not as versatile as Animate Dead, which can be from any graveyard. This one is only from yours, and it can be any creature for Animate Dead, but this one is only mana value 3 or less. So you got to pick your cards carefully there. Or if you don't need to use it, it's got a little bit of cycling too. Got this little guy that's bursting out through a door there. So, you know, being very, very scary in and of itself there. And we're also going to get a little bit of Lignify, a nice removal spell there, or pseudo removal. Because Lignify is 1 and a green, based off of Fear of the Dark 1992. And you've got this like creature that's like spliced into a tree there. It's a Kindred Enchantment Treefolk Aura. Enchant creature. The enchanted creature is a Treefolk with base power and toughness 0/4 and loses all abilities. So you put it onto something important that your opponent has there. It becomes a 0/4. Can't use any of its abilities. No static abilities like Vigilance or anything like that. Any activated or triggered abilities, those are all gone as well. So, you know, it's a very, very good pseudo removal spell there, kind of like Darksteel Mutation, make their thing a 0/1 bug with indestructible. It keeps the thing on the field so they can't reanimate it there. They can't, you know, bring it back. If they flicker it, yeah, you know, it gets rid of the enchantment there, but then they've had to use something to be able to get rid of it. So now that we've finished off all of these, we're going to be moving on to the bonus sheet cards. So the bonus sheet for this one here is going to be a Burnt Offering. I think that's the same. Yep, and it's going to be the same for both of them there. So Burnt Offering, 1 black mana for an instant with, as an additional cost to cast the spell, you sack a creature. Add X mana in any combination of black or green, where X is the sacrifice creature's mana value, from the single from 2000 Wicker Man. I think it's funny also that all of them were just in order of basically release date as well. Very, very interesting. So you sack a creature that has a high mana value. So if you need to cast a spell or something, or like you don't need it anymore, then you'd be able to kind of essentially recycle its mana value. And I mean, all you'd be down is just 1 black mana for it. I mean, not too bad, but I mean, you'd have to be in the right situation for it to really pop off there. I'm sure that there's tons of things that you can do, potentially doubling mana in your mana pool. I think there's a card that does that, to potentially get a whole bunch of extra in there. That would be nifty. And we're going to continue on with our Iron Maiden with a little bit of Eddie Unchained. Now this is getting a bit much here, so I might have to move things around. We get a little bit of Secret Lair action there. Brave New World. Okay, imagine that this Eddie Unchained is some character that Iron Maiden set up, kind of like Ziggy Stardust. Who is that there? I can't remember who did Ziggy Stardust. But we're starting off with Eddie the Judge. A nice reprint there of Bruvac the Grandiloquent. A 2 and a blue for a 1/4 legendary human advisor with, if an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill twice that many instead. You know, I believe that this showed up in maybe like a Jumpstart pack or something, or maybe like an old Ravnica thing. I can't quite remember, but the big thing is it's a mill card. Now, I probably wouldn't use it as my commander. However, I am looking to make my Hope Estime deck there, and Hope Estime mills based off of the life that you gain. So you've got cards that double the amount of life that you gain for gaining life. So if you double that and then you double the amount of cards that are milled at the end of turn there, you can probably get through people's stuff real quick there. So I'm really glad to get a version of Bruvac here because I'm going to actually be using it. Next up, we're going to get a little bit of Windfall action there. I do use Windfall quite a bit, so maybe putting this in my Nekusar deck would be good. And I think there's actually a Nekusar in here as well. So, you know, it'd be pretty nice to be able to use that there because it kind of has like a nice look to it. But Windfall, a sorcery for 2 and a blue, each player discards their hand, then draw cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. So you can have a bunch of cards in your hand, discard them there, and you know, you get a brand new hand. You can try to get rid of some good stuff that are in your opponent's hands there. If you've got Nekusar, it deals damage to your opponents based off of the cards that they discard. It's a very, very good one there. And here we go, another commander. Another card that was a commander for the one of the D&D sets there that has become a little bit pricey there, but it's the this is the first reprinting I think of it. Eddie, Ghost of the Navigator, a copy of Captain Nagatharod, 3 a blue and a black for a 3/6 legendary horror pirate. With horrors you control have menace, and whenever a horror you control deals combat damage to a player, that player mills that many cards. Seems like good with Bruvac. At the beginning of your end step, choose a target artifact or creature card in an opponent's graveyard that was put there from their library this turn, and put it on the battlefield under your control. Very interesting. So if you've milled something really good for them, you get to cheat it onto the battlefield. That's pretty nice. That is pretty nice. And up next, we are going to get the card we were talking about, Eddie, Lord of Light, a version of Nekusar the Mind Razor. 2, a blue, a black, and a green for a 2/4 legendary zombie wizard with, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card, and whenever an opponent draws a card, Eddie deals 1 damage to that player. It can be, you know, pretty innocuous there. You know, it can fly under the radar a little bit until you really get yourself set up with a couple of cards that like mill through people's hands or whatnot there, or cards with the similar effect of whenever they draw a card, they take a damage, you know, have it out there. And it's just like, yeah, you get to draw an additional card, you take a damage for each one, but it's like you get to draw 2 cards each turn. And people are like, oh yeah, like semi-group hug. You don't take the damage though, but it's like, it's semi-group hug. But then when you start wheeling them and they are taking massive amounts of damage, they're like, oh man, we should have gotten rid of the Nekusar. I have had a couple of games like that where it's just like, I've got the Nekusar and they're like, yeah, I like the cards. And then I'm like, okay, Windfall into, another one that does that there. And I've got another, cheap creature like Orcish Bowmasters or... God, I can't remember the name of that other one there. It's a black creature that does this effect of deals 1 damage to a player when they draw a card. Or no, it's if a red permanent would deal damage, it deals 1 extra damage or something like that. You could also splice on the blue-red Gene Stealer Colt Warhammer guy there that I think starts with a K or something, that it's like Kellermorph or something like that, where it's like if you would deal 1 damage, you instead deal 3. So it's just like, okay, you know, they draw 7 cards or something, and you've got that out there, and instead Nekusar is dealing 7 for each card, and they've drawn 7 cards, that's 21 damage. So, you know, it can be pretty intense. And we've got a little name drop here for the band itself, a little bit of Iron Maiden, an artifact for 3 mana that at the beginning of each player's upkeep, this artifact deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of cards in their hand minus 4, so it incentivizes them to keep a smaller hand. But, you know, they're drawing extra cards from Nekusar, can make it a little bit difficult there, and they're also milling them more with the Bruvac and the Captain Negathoroid there, so dealing some extra damage, and it's an actual Iron Maiden, so very, very nice. And the last of our normal cards here is going to be... what's this one called? Mind Crank. Mind Crank, a 2-mana artifact with whenever an opponent loses life, they mill that many cards. Okay, so you get them to draw cards with Nekusar extra. They take damage. They've got a mill, and then when they mill, the Bruvac makes them mill twice as much. Okay, so you're really making them mill a whole lot. You're trying to get them to get through their library very, very quickly there. An interesting one. I'll have to see about potentially putting that into a deck there, because it'll be an interesting one there for sure. You know, I'll have to figure out a way for it, and I think that these have equivalent ones here. Yep. And a good card to go along with that Nekusar is a little bit of Howling Mind. Definitely one that I have had previously there. Now, it's a little bit hard to see, but it has the mana value on this skull right here. 2 mana for Howling Mind, an artifact that at the beginning of each player's draw step, if this artifact is untapped, they draw an additional card. So you could put this in something like Urza, Lord High Artificer, and it's untapped on your turn so that you'll be able to draw a card, but the time that it goes to an opponent, you could tap it down so that they don't get to the extra card there. Or you could have it in something like Nekusar, where drawing cards is bad. You know, there's ways of using Howling Mind where it's pretty good there. It is a card that I already use, so, you know, being able to potentially have an extra one here where it's just like, yeah, you know, like a cool bonus card that I can use in it seems like a pretty good deal to me. So we'll certainly take all of those ones there. Get those right up next to each other. And here is where we will go into the kind of weird stuff there, because what we've got is these Furby ones. And the big thing is I've got a normal one, I've got a rainbow foil one, and I've got a confetti foil one. So I think maybe what I will end up doing is just opening up one and just kind of doing like what all the prices are for the stuff, because I am going to open up all of them there, or something along those lines. Uni lule du Dakar. So we'll be getting this one in there. All right, a little bit of Distant Melody. 3 and a blue for a sorcery that choose a creature type and you draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. So a little bit of Kindred action there. You want to put it in with like a bunch of humans or a bunch of elves, zombies, you know, anything that has this type in itself there. You know, dragon, like there's so much stuff. Merfolk. But you have to have it in blue. Like, you're probably not going to get too many blue-red goblins there, so probably wouldn't be able to do it with that, but you could probably find it for other things. there that have that blue in it. We're also going to have a little bit of explore. I really do like the almost like rainbow puke of colors on this one here. Like some of the other ones start getting a little bit darker in context, but also in color palette. But it's just like, I think that these will look amazing in the foilings there. For 1 and a green, you get a sorcery with you may play an additional land this turn and draw a card. You know, good old classic there. Inspiring Call, which was the cover art for this one here. You know, a bunch of rainbow, bunch of colors here. 2 and a green for an instant, draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. So actually, Inspiring Call, this seems like it would be pretty good in the Tidus deck that came out for Final Fantasy there, the Commander deck pre-con. If it's not already in there, because a lot of the stuff already has +1/+1 counters on it, and just, you know, giving the things indestructible and getting a bunch of draws for it seems pretty good. Good old classic Chromatic Lantern. 3 mana for an artifact with lands you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color, and you can tap this to add 1 mana of any color. Now, I know that there are a couple of people that are not big on this card, and I do think that it's something that really only works when you've got like a 4 or 5 color deck. Most of the time, like, you definitely don't need it in 1 color deck. This is just, you don't need it in there. It's better to just replace it with something else or get a better mana rock. 2 mana, still, it's not feeling that great. You've got like signets and talismans, and, you know, there's much better stuff that you can do with this sort of effect there. At 3, it's kind of in that limbo space of like, is it worth it, is it not? Because then you don't have to worry about it there. But it's really 4 and 5 where it would have a better time to shine there. So I won't deny that in, you know, less mana colors, it's not great and it shouldn't be run there, but I would probably still be thinking of this potentially as a card to have in those. It can also make fetch lands and other lands that might tap for colorless, tap for colors instead if you need that there. Though again, you probably wouldn't be putting too many of those types of lands in a 4 or 5 color deck. So that's why it's just like, you know, it really is dependent on what you are looking for. And Soul Ring, you know, I think that this card is going to look fabulous in the rainbow and the confetti foil there, just because it's going to have so much color to it there, and it's going to be so pretty. Kind of like the Sonic Soul Ring there, of that kind of rainbow effect color around it. You know, I think that this one is going to be good too. And for the special card of the set, we're going to get a Command Tower. Okay, you know, this one might be good too. It looks like we've got some giant Furbies. Like that one's giant on the horizon, that one is too, and this one is like a dragon or something that's coiling around. I wonder where this whole like Furby horror came from there, especially, you know, going along lines, because it's like, yeah, they look cute and cuddly, but when you've got like, I can't remember what it's called, like titanophobia, gigantophobia, but it's like when you're scared of things that are like massive there, but it's just like, yeah, you know, this is just something that's coiling around a tower and it's up into the stratosphere or something like that. It's huge. But yeah, you know, I guess Furbies are there. You know, get the nice colorful ones out of the way first. You know, we've got the other ones right here, rainbow and the confetti. You know, I've already put the prices of the stuff on there, so why don't? I'm just gonna open them up here, you know, just in case I'm missing out on a bonus card this time as well, and we can just take a look at the foilings, see how they do. You know, we won't talk about the cards, what they do, because we've already gone over them. Distant Melody, it's looking fine there. Explore, that looks really nice with the foiling there, you know, all of the different colors and whatnot. Inspiring Call, that one also looks really nice with all of the colors there, and you've got all of the butterflies and whatnot. Nice. Chromatic Lantern, that one looks nice as well. You've got the rainbows and the cats and whatnot, but the big ones that we're going to be looking for here, this Soul Ring, yeah, that looks really good. Not as good as the Sonic Soul Ring, I will admit. I think that the Sonic Soul Ring has a bit more pop to it there, and maybe, you know, this might not be the best lighting for me to see it there, but, you know, I still think that it's a really, really nice looking Soul Ring. And command tower there, yep. Nice little colorful command tower, getting all the colors in the Furby on it there. Let's just see how the confetti foil really compares to that one there. Just to kind of give a little sense to it. Already, they look better. I'm not going to lie. Just looking at that distant melody there, yeah, it already looks better. It's confetti foiling on it. I'm having trouble seeing it at the angle I'm looking at, but I hope that you guys can see it there in some way. But all the little dots to kind of accentuate the Furby in of itself and some of the background there. And it even comes down into the text here as well. I think it looks better than the regular hollow foiling. Let's see here. So it looks like, for me to be able to see it, it looks like it's mostly on the Furby and the flowers and whatnot there. I mean, you've got some here, and it's faint in the text box there, and, you know, a couple on the trees there, but, you know, I don't know, the confetti foiling definitely makes them look better. Oh yeah, there's a whole lot on here with all of the rainbows and the Furbies and some of the animals. This bunny doesn't have a single one on it, but some of the butterflies do and whatnot. The sun has a little bit there. It's just funny that this one bunny does not, but yeah, you know, it already looks better. Chromatic lantern there, you know, you're getting a little bit more of that raviness to it with this being a concert and whatnot there. So yeah, you know, I like that. And the Soul Ring, oh yeah, that looks better with that confetti foiling. Oh yeah, it's still not as good as the Sonic, but I mean, I think that it looked great with that foiling on it there. There's a lot on it. It gives a bit more of an aura to it. And, oh, there's so much on this command tower there. Yeah, it looks almost like a fractured foil with it there. My goodness, that's a good-looking command tower. You know, it's not on any of this land right here, but, like, all of the sky, the Furby, the tower, like, yeah, it looks good. Oh, yeah, the confetti foiling definitely is amazing on that. All right, so now that we've got that, let's go a little bit darker here, going into this other Furby, the gathering of Furbies in this particular case, an endless sea of worlds invaded by a relentless tide of love. So now, you know, all of the Furbies are starting to invade the Magic universe there. They were already in their own little space here. Sphere of Safety, a little bit of Aurelia there. Sphere of Safety, 4 and a white enchantment. Creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays X for each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments that you can control. A little bit of a propaganda effect. If you've got 2 enchantments out there, it's the same cost for propaganda. If you've got more enchantments out there, well, it's better than propaganda. Even as the barrier began to falter, the swarm grew stronger still. Poor Aurelia, you know, she's trying to block off all of the Furbies from getting to her. Miscast, 1 blue for an instant. Counter target instant or sorcery spell unless its controller pays 3. So, you know, a little bit of like a mana leak effect there, you know, but it's specifically for instant and sorceries there. Make them pay a little bit extra. Maybe they can't cast another thing that they wanted to, or if it's in the early game there, you can just stop something impactful from going off there. So nifty little one. Thus, the Magus learned one final lesson. His ambition didn't match his skill. So trying to get rid of them there, and I guess the Furby like interrupted his spell. Phyrexian Arena. Now we're getting into some darker stuff, Phyrexian Arena, 1 and double black for the enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. You draw a card, lose 1 life. Very, very classic one there. All the Might of Phyrexia was no match for this new cuddly threat there, and, you know, it's kind of trying to use its psychic mind powers to, like, explode the head of this Phyrexian creature there. So, poor Phyrexians, they didn't deserve this. Tormenting Voice, now we're starting to get into that, like, gigantophobia or something like that. 1 in a red for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you discard a card and then draw 2 cards. If you ever heard a Furby howl, don't run. It's already too late. You know, all of these goblins trying to get away as this Furby is coming after them there. Horrifying. And we're also going to get a little bit of Tamio's Safekeeping. 1 green for an instant. Target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. You gain 2 life. So you get to protect 1 thing there, get a little bit of extra life back. Tamio knows to never judge a creature by its size or its appetite there. So, you know, maybe trying to keep them all under control there, even though they're around her. Also, rip Tamio because she's not with us anymore. And for our bonus card, we're going to get a little bit of Arcane Signet. Okay, some sort of, like, queenly Furby there with a flail. That's kind of intimidating there. Arcane Signet, 2 mana for an artifact. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. 1 cannot wear the tiara without cracking a few crowns. Yeah, it's a very, very classic card for commander there. Came out with, what's that one there? It came out with Eldraine there in their Brawl decks. That's what it is. I have a feeling that this one's also going to look good in the confetti foiling as well. But yeah, I'm trying to see, like, you've got white. Yep, you got all the colors. You got white, red, black, blue, and green in the tiara. So it all works out on that end there. Looks nice, looks nice. And let's take a look at the other ones here. I got the foil. Let's see how the foiling does with these. Well, at least we haven't missed out on a bonus card other than the that one that we had originally there. So, Sphere of Safety again there. You know, nice to get a little bit of that foiling on there. You know, maybe in some better light there, some brighter light, the field will pop a bit more. Miscast, same thing with this one. I think that the field will pop a little bit better in some better light. I know that I don't have the best light there, but I hope that you're getting some nice foil effects there from the way that you're viewing it. Little Phyrexian Arena there. This really pops there for me, this kind of like bright pink to purple around there where the stuff is happening. And the foiling casts a bit more of a shadow on the Furby here and makes it a little bit more intimidating. Tormenting Voice, this one is a bit of a, like the color palette is a bit darker there, so it doesn't quite pop quite as much there for me, so not super fond of this foiling. Tamio Safekeeping, the pinks really pop out, really nice there for me. We've got this Furby that's close up that doesn't really have much foiling in and of itself there. But you've got one Furby, it looks like that's trying to be a rice ball in Tamio's hands. And a little bit of that Arcane Signet. Now, these are kind of like darker shades of pinks and purples, so it doesn't really pop out too much in this lighting on this card. Like I said with the other ones, hopefully it'll be better on in better light there. But the confetti foil is the one that we are really hoping it's going to have some good poppiness to it. And yeah, it does. Oh man, it's got a lot on it there. Okay, get that Sphere of Safety, and that bubble really pops a lot more with all of that confetti foil inside of it there. Very, very nice on that one. I like that. Miscast, yeah. Not only the bubble around it there, but the little like fire bolts that are coming towards it there, and the sparkles in its eyes, it does really pop out a lot more like I was hoping. Phyrexian Arena, basically anything within this space of like whatever mind magic that this Furby is doing, it's creating a lot of nice effect here, so I definitely dig that one. Tormenting Voice, still the least impressive out of all of these. There's a tiny rainbow that I just noticed up here. None of the goblins are in confetti foil. It's just essentially this T of like this top part and then this middle where this Furby is there. But again, color palette is just like a bit washed out. That's what I want to call it. It's a bit washed out, so it doesn't really pop that much. Tamio safekeeping, yeah. The Furbies are very confetti foil. Tamio herself is not, so it's like they're trying to say like, yeah, it's just centralized on the Furbies and the environments. The Sakura blossoms really pop as well. And I mean, Tamio's hair pieces there also have a bit of foiling. So yeah, a nice little pop on that one. And there we go. Didn't pop quite as much as I was expecting it to, but it's still a nice little arcane signet to get. So, nice little extra bonus to all of our stuff there. We'll certainly take that one. And we're going to move on to the last one. Last one here, the actual horrors of the Furbies, what they call the odd bodies. Now, these are the ones where it's actually going to be delving into the like actual horrorness of Furbies and why they came out with this Halloween set. Again, I have no idea where the Furby horror came from, but it exists. Speaking of horrors, we got a Hullbreaker horror. This Furby with some sort of crustacean-looking body there, breaking up the ships. Yeah, it's not pretty to look at. 5 and double blue for a 7/8 Kraken horror with flash. That cannot be countered. And whenever you cast a spell, you choose up to 1. Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So you can cast something that's sorcery speed to return a permanent to non-land permanent to an owner hand, or if you have something with flash or play something at instant speed, you can return a spell to an owner's hand without it resolving there. So, can do some disruption with it there. It's a nice one there for Commander for sure. Maddening Cacophony, some sort of bat-looking Furby with a sort of sonic wail to it. 1 and a blue for a sorcery that has kicker of 3 and a blue. So it's either 1 and a blue or 4 and 2 blue for each opponent mills 8 cards. If the spell was kicked, instead each opponent mills half their library rounded up. Combine this with a little bit of Bruvac there. They mill half their library. Because it mills half their library rounded up, so if they only have 1 card, half of their library would be 0.5, but it rounds up to 1 and would kill them. So with Bruvac there, all you got to do is get Bruvac out there, play this Madden Cacophony kicked, and it mills all of their libraries, like fully. Yeah, that could be a bit frightening there. A little bit of Serum Visions. You got this some sort of like wizard-looking one, but you've got all of these extra eyes on the top of its head there. 1 blue for a sorcery, draw a card, scry 2. Used to be like a very, very good one that was in and around, can kind of set up the top of your library if you really want to there. But they had like a whole, like in the early stages of Secret Lair, they had like Serum Visions that had just like, it was 4 copies of different artworks for Serum Visions. We're also going to get, again, one of the most terrifying ones here, Umbrous Fear Manifest. 3, a blue and a black for a 1/1 legendary nightmare horror. Yeah, this is a nightmare horror for sure. Umbrous gets +1/+1 for each card your opponents own in exile. And whenever Umbrous or another nightmare or horror you control ETBs, target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a land. So if you've got ways to keep on exiling more of their stuff, kind of like with this sort of effect, you can make it pretty big. And my goodness, this giant ass centipede, millipede looking horrific creature there with this gaping mouth and this kind of unimpressed stare of this Furby is just absolutely horrific there. And you can see it just keeps on going, and here it is in the background as well. It's huge. We're also going to get Spellskite, probably the least horrific looking one, but it still is horrific. Spellskite, 2 colorless for a 0/4 artifact creature, Phyrexian Horror. For 1 blue Phyrexian mana, you can change a target of target spell or ability to this creature. So removal ability, or if your opponents are trying to buff up their own creatures, you can move it to here. It creates attention, feed it. Now, it looks normal at first, but you can also see it's got all of these like spider legs off of it there. So that's what makes it horrifying, and we have no clue how big it is either. So it could be massive, or it could still be the size of a human and still be really creepy there. But, you know, it's not, it's still a horror there. And our last one there is going to be Read the Bones. This sort of like, looks like the mechanics of the Furby there. 2 and a black, sorcery, scry 2, then draw 2, you lose 2 life. Learn anything you want to know and everything you don't. You know, looks like it part skeleton and then part mechanics there to it. Yeah, it's a horrific little set there. Let's finish up these odd bodies here with getting up the other two there, the foiling versions, Best Friends Forever. Yeah, these odd bodies are probably wanting to be your best friends forever, with forever probably not being a long time because they're probably going to be getting rid of you real quickly. Hullbreaker Horror. Yeah, the oranges and the yellows really pop out nicely on that one in the foiling. Maddening Cacophony. It's a bit of a darker palette there, but really the whatever the sonic scream that they have is something that is popping out there for me. So nice little foiling on that. Serum Visions. Darker palette altogether. I don't know. In the foiling here, the colors sort of... Oh, I was going to say that, but holding it at the right angle there, it really pops in the colors for me once you hold them in the right angle. I hope that I get that angle for you guys as well. Umbrous Fear Manifest there. Even looking at it the right way, it didn't give me much in terms of great foiling colors, so unfortunately not the greatest in terms of foilings there, but, you know, we'll still take it. Spellskite really popped when you get it into the right angle there, so, you know, a nice version of it that I could use. And Read the Bones. You know, it's fine. It's not my favorite artwork there. I don't really use Read the Bones all that much anyway, so it's probably not going to be something major that I end up using, but it is nice for the collection. And lastly, the confetti foiling for all of that. Still Best Friend Forever. Yeah, that's just that there. Okay. Okay, get a little bit Hullbreaker Horror, and it got that nice confetti foiling on the yellows and the oranges of it, not so much in the background of the ship, but I think that it pops just as good as the other foiling there. Maddening Cacophony, yeah, just these mountains here aren't getting any of that confetti there, but, you know, the Furby, the sky, and most importantly, the part that really pops there, pops even more in this version than in the foiling there, the rainbow foiling. That Sonic Scream really is a nice one there. Serum Visions. Let's see here. Yep, and the right one there for me kind of pops out just about as good as the rainbow foiling there. I don't think that the confetti foiling in this one really does a whole lot, just because the palette is just a lot of different versions of blues, and it's a bit harder to see it. Umbrous, a lot of it is confetti foiled there. I mean, it is a long being. Yeah, the other one didn't impress me too much. This one is much better there. I think that it's not amazing, but it's still much better than the other one, I have to say. Spellskite, yeah, you know, because of kind of this like aura, magical aura around it there, all of this confetti foiling makes it look really, really cool to it as well there. So I think that one looks amazing. And Read the Bones, you know, we're getting a little bit there. This one doesn't change all that much. There's not a ton of confetti foiling on this. So I would say that this is probably the most let down one of all of the confetti foils that we have. Even more so than this Serum Visions there. But all in all, you know, we got a ton of stuff. Very interesting that one of the bonus cards was not included in there. And I'll try to figure out a way to contact... I mean, I know I've done ways of contacting Wizards when I've been missing products or whatnot there, but it'll be interesting to kind of figure out how to get like a bonus sheet card. But I mean, I've got the video to prove it there, but all in all, you know, an interesting little set there. The Furbies are interesting, you know, get their confetti foiling. Some good cards in the Iron Maiden stuff. Everything in here was like, had something cool about it. I mean, there are some that sometimes I open up a Secret Lair and I'm like, I'm not too much. Like, I don't really dig the artwork too much of the trick-or-treaters there, but they did have some cool creatures in them, even if it... You know, I'll say it, this is probably the lowest tier of all of these that we had, because it's like, I'm not super big on the artwork. The cards didn't really combine well together, kind of like a lot of these other ones did. They had some interesting creatures in and of itself, so I mean, that still keeps it as a bit of a redeeming factor. Some of them ones that you don't get very often, but the other ones just had more stuff to them that were cool, or, you know, just had cards that had better value to them in and of themselves. But all in all, nifty little spooky season set. Thank you for joining me up on opening up all of these there. You know, I hope that you have good luck with whatever you are up to. I'll look forward to seeing you again. Please have a good afternoon, good evening, good night. And until you do come back, please take care of yourself. I'll see you later.